So we are still learning and discussing about the Titthayatana Sutta. The Buddha taught about the deep Dhamma, and we just finished about the so we pay homage to the supremely enlightened Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We pay homage to our teacher Luk Swami Wahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So we just finished up to here, right?
Yes, Bhante.
Buddha taught that there are these 6 elements, the elements of earth, water, fire, air, space, and consciousness. We finished all of them. We learned about those, right?
Did we finish about consciousness too? I thought.
Yeah, we finished. We finished all of them.
Yes.
And then Buddha teaches about the 6 fields of contact. There are these 6 fields of contact. Eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, and mind contact, right? So what is the meaning of contact?
I don't know how long is already. Before I open my eyes.
So we finished. Okay, so let's go to learn about contact. Can you see here?
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, so this is where Buddha explains about the contact. Can somebody read this?
I can read one thing.
Okay.
The 6 classes of contact should be understood. That's what I said. But why did I say eye consciousness arises dependent on the eye and sights? The meeting of the 3 is contact. Ear consciousness arises dependent on the ear and sounds. The meeting of the 3 is contact. Nose consciousness arises dependent on the nose and smells. The meeting of the 3 is contact. Tongue consciousness arises dependent on the tongue and tastes. The meeting of the 3 is contact. Body consciousness arises dependent on the body and touches. The meeting of the 3 is contact. Mind consciousness arises dependent on the mind and thoughts. The meeting of the 3 is contact. The 6 classes of contact should be understood. That's what I said, and this is why I said it. This is the 4th set of 6.
Okay, so we rejoice in your reading.
Thank you.
So dear Kalyanamitas, now you can see here Buddha teaches the meaning of contact. The Pali word is phassa. Um, so what is the meaning of contact as Buddha explains? Eye consciousness arises dependent on the eye and sights. The meaning of the three is contact or eye contact. So here we need to understand that when we see something, three things come together. What are those three things?
Eye consciousness.
I, the
We
form
have the
and
eye
eye
and
consciousness.
the visual object sights and the eye consciousness.
Consciousness.
And here specifically Buddha teaches that normally we talk about the eye consciousness as the third one of the three, eye, sight, and the eye consciousness. Here Buddha teaches eye consciousness arises dependent on eye and sights. So that means before we understand the contact, we can understand about eye consciousness. We can understand something about eye consciousness. What can we understand? Eye consciousness always depends on the eye and the visual object. So, is eye permanent or impermanent?
Impermanent.
Impermanent. Sights, are they permanent or impermanent?
Impermanent.
Impermanent. If something arises dependent on impermanent things, what is the nature of that thing? It is also
Impermanent.
impermanent. So when eye consciousness arises dependent on the eye and sights, then we understand with wise consideration that definitely this consciousness is not a permanent thing. This is very important. This is how we understand the Buddha's teaching that there is no permanent consciousness whatsoever. There is no consciousness flying here and there. The only consciousness that Buddha teaches is about these 6 classes of consciousness which arises in each sense base, and all those 6 classes of consciousness are impermanent because they arise dependent on impermanent things. So this eye, sight, and eye consciousness together we call contact. Do you understand? So this is a powerful reflection in order to abandon Sakkaya Ditthi, identity view, to be a stream entrant, to attain the first stage of enlightenment. One has to abandon that view, identity view. And this is how to do that. This helps us to understand the non-self nature of things. And if you think about the ear contact, Buddha teaches ear contact means ear consciousness arises dependent on the ear and sounds. The meeting of the three is contact. So we don't need to give different, like our own explanations, interpretations, opinions about contact. We don't need to say this is contact, that is contact. We need to understand very clearly, contact means meeting of the three is contact. If it is about the ear contact, then the meaning is meeting of the ear consciousness, ear and sound is ear contact. And again, is ear consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent. Because it arises dependent on two impermanent things. What are they? Ear and
Yeah.
And
Sound.
sound.
ear and sound. So this is very important. This is how we learn getting rid of anger, because basically when somebody criticizes us, insults us, we use this we need to use this voice reflection, because that sound, if we are not mindful about that sound we hear of somebody criticizing us, insulting us, if we are not mindful what is happening there, it will lead to anger. But if somebody does this vipassana here, this is called vipassana, understanding things as they really are, with wise consideration. You understand that sound of that insult or criticism is also impermanent. The ear is also impermanent, and the knowing part of the sound, the ear consciousness, is also impermanent. So these things are subject to change, and there is no self here. And when you do that reflection, the anger will go away. This is not a temporary solution. This is a permanent solution. This is a practical solution to get rid of anger. That is only one example. It's like that with all the other defilements when they arise. So this, we talked about sound. That's why we talked about somebody's criticism or insult, because it comes as a sound. Okay, so then we go to the third one. What is the meaning of nose contact? Nose consciousness arises dependent on the nose and smells. The meeting of the three is contact or nose contact. So then we know nose is impermanent, smells are impermanent. Definitely, then the consciousness is impermanent because it arises dependent on those two things. Then we learn about the tongue contact. What is the tongue contact? Tongue consciousness arises dependent on the tongue and tastes. The meeting of the three is contact. So what are these things that come together when we eat something, when we taste something? We have the tongue, taste, and the consciousness. All these three things are impermanent, right?
Yes, Bhante.
That is why we can never satisfy our tongue, because these three things are impermanent. If we understand this will help all of us to get rid of greediness, craving for food. And we go to the fourth one, body contact. Buddha teaches body consciousness arises dependent on the body and touches. The meeting of the three is contact. So again, we have this body. Is this permanent or impermanent?
Well,
Huh?
Impermanent, Bhante.
What is the reason? We learned
Because
about that in the previous segment. Because this body made up of
the four great elements.
4 elements.
Um,
Earth element, water element, air element, and fire element, right? And these
Yes.
things will go back to those things. They are the parts of the nature: earth, water, fire, air, and the body will go back to those things, be a part of the nature. Because body is made up of impermanent things, the body is also impermanent. So that impermanent body experiences the tangibles. As a result, consciousness arises. So because consciousness arises dependent on impermanent things, body consciousness is also impermanent. We need to understand this through wise consideration. That's what Buddha teaches. And we understand there because things are dependently arisen. There is no one to control. They are out of control. They follow their own ways, causes and conditions. As long as causes and conditions are present, the results will be present. When the causes change, the results will change. And they will not, we cannot hold on to those things. That's how we understand the impermanence. And the last one is mind contact. The meaning of the mind contact is that mind consciousness arises dependent on the mind and thoughts. The meaning of the three is contact, mind contact. So here Buddha clearly explains about three things: mind, mind consciousness, mind, and the thoughts. Very clearly it's mentioned here. So then we know that we can develop wise consideration to understand these things as three different things, and they have their own paths. As a result of mind and thought, mind consciousness arises. And again, there is nothing permanent here. There is no permanent mind. There is no permanent thought. As a result, there is no permanent mind consciousness. That's how we understand that there is no permanent soul. Sometimes you hear this word soul going from one life to another. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as Buddha explains. Mind consciousness, even this mind consciousness arises dependent on impermanent things. So when mind changes, thoughts changes, definitely mind consciousness changes. As a result, contact is always changing. So that is how we understand the 6 fields of contact. So this is in the Titthayatana Sutta, and we learned about the explanation by going to a different sutta, and that is the 6x6 sutta. That means Chachakka Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, middle on discourses of the Buddha, Chachakka Sutta. We learned about the explanation, and our base sutta is from Anguttara Nikaya, numerical discourses of the Buddha, the book of the threes. That is from the Titthayatana Sutta, about different religions or doctrines, sectarian tenets. Okay, before we go into the 18 mental preoccupations, do you have any questions about contact? Is that clear? So I think that's very straightforward explanation from the Buddha about contact.
I can probably come up with a question, Bhante.
Okay, you're welcome to ask questions.
Just the word contact. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's some alternate words that may be useful to be similar to the word contact, just to better understand it. I'm just trying to make the distinction between contact and consciousness.
Mhm.
I know that contact is the sum of the three, object, I
Yeah.
consciousness. But I'm just trying in my mind to get a better distinction between the contact and the consciousness. Maybe a better word for contact or an alternate word for
Mhm.
contact would help me. I don't know.
You can suggest.
Connection.
If you like it, you can use it.
Okay. What's the Pali word again?
Phassa.
Phassa.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Phassa. Phassa.
Phassa. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Contact, like connection, or I don't know, realization, or
How about this? Three things coming together of three things.
Yeah, meeting of three things.
Meeting of three things or union of three things. How about that?
right. But if you bring three things together, does that create one thing?
That's called contact.
Okay. But it's not really one thing. It's the meeting of three things.
Yeah.
Okay.
The meeting of three things.
Right.
That's interesting, right? Because when we see things, we just think that I am seeing, he is seeing, she is seeing, we are seeing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's just conditioned things come together. They last for a while,
Right.
and for that duration, we create so many stories, right? You give rise to perceptions, volitions. It's a whole long story when contact happens.
So we
But
can.
but in the background, what is happening is three things come together.
Right.
They last for a while, and those three things are separated.
Right.
As soon as, for example, let's say we are focusing on sight, and the eye contact arises, and we are recognizing that object, we are thinking about that, and that's beautiful, that is nice, I like it, and this and that. And then in few seconds, we change our attention to a music, beautiful sound.
Yeah.
And we no longer pay attention to that visual object.
So I'm just thinking that consciousness, we'll say I consciousness, occurs in the mind, but contact is not necessarily something that occurs in the mind, because contact is three things, and not all of those three things are in the mind.
Yeah, in all the 6 sense bases, we have 6 classes of contact.
Right.
Mind contact is only one of those 6, right?
Okay, so that mind contact we could say is all in the mind, but not the other, other 5.
Yeah, it's the 6th one.
Right. But the other 5, the contact is not necessarily, it's partially in the mind, but not all in the mind.
Yeah.
But mind contact would be all in the mind. So there's a
Mhm.
distinction there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, do you know that because of not understanding that when contact happens, in our word, seeing or hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, we use those words. We don't say contact has arisen. We don't say like that. We say, oh, I saw something. It's really beautiful, nice. Oh, I saw something. I hate it. I don't like it.
Mhm.
That's how we say it. But without thinking about the likes or dislikes, Buddha asks us to understand the cause and effect mechanism there.
Process.
That is, yeah, that's the most important thing here. When we understand, if we don't understand cause and effect thing here, instead if we give priority to likes and dislikes, our life is going to follow a whole different direction.
Mhm.
And if we label our contact, the things that we see as likes, then the lust, greediness, craving, clinging, those kinds of defilements will follow us.
Right.
If we focus on dislikes, if we label the sights, the things we see as dislikes, then the hatred, rejection, aversion, anger, these kinds of defilements will follow us, right?
Right.
What is the reason? Simultaneously, with the arising of contact, something else also arises. That is the reason. That is how we are carried away. As soon as contact arises, what is the other thing that arises?
Feeling?
Feeling. Correct. Feeling arises. This feeling is the thing that carries us away into two different directions. Either in the direction of craving or attachment, or the direction of aversion, rejection. But we cannot understand feeling. We cannot stop our likes and dislikes just by focusing on the feeling without investigating the contact.
Right. Thank you, Bhante.
So that's a very powerful thing to reflect on. If we understand every feeling, whether it is pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, every feeling depends on this contact, that is the path to wisdom. But if we forget about contact and try to understand feeling, it will be very hard.
Right.
Because when we think about feeling, it's like it's already it's a combination of many things. So without paying attention to those parts that are inside the feeling, if we try to just understand the feeling and to develop a kind of wisdom not to cling to feelings or not to reject feelings, it will be hard.
Mhm.
That's why we should start with 6 sense bases. So we understand the I. In the case of feelings arise in the seeing process, we understand the I, we understand the sights, we understand the I consciousness. When we understand those 3 things, now we have a very good understanding about the eye contact, and then we know that feeling arises dependent on contact. We go like that. Gradually we go.
So it kind of takes some of the power out of feeling.
Yeah. The whole world, every being's life is governed by this feeling. You will recognize that.
Thank you, Bhante.
The beings are carried away by pleasant feelings. They are carried away by unpleasant feelings. They are carried away by neutral feelings. Like it's It's interesting to think that our life is going in different directions based on just three things, always three things, not four things, not five things, not six things, with only three things. What are they? Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling. It's just three things. But because of not understanding the process behind it, we have uncountable stories in our lives. But if we try to analyze them and categorize them, we can categorize all our stories into three groups. Stories related to pleasant feelings, stories related to unpleasant feelings, stories related to neutral feelings. That's all. Right? And you think about, for example, you think about an incident that made you angry. Right? You are angry, you are yelling at somebody. What is the beginning of that story? Unpleasant feeling, born of ear contact. Dukkha vedaniya, sota sampassaja vedana. An unpleasant feeling born of ear contact.
Bante, a question. Hello.
Hari,
Bante?
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the pleasant feeling of one person, one person sees it pleasant, may that be pleasant as perceived by another person. So for example, sounds. So this sound may be beautiful for me, but then the other person may thought that it's not beautiful as well. So should the concept of perception, should that be included in this group? I mean, the subjectivity.
Yeah, it goes, we talked about not at this stage of contact, right? Because for that person who experiences pleasantness or unpleasantness, for both individuals, the contact is the same. Ear, sound, and the ear consciousness. For both individuals, ear contact is the same. But when it comes to the feeling, that makes the difference.
Oh, I see. I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Bante.
The same contact is happening, but when it gives rise to the feeling, it gives rise to a pleasant feeling for one individual, and it gives rise to an unpleasant feeling for another individual. And for that, the sight plays a major role. The visual object plays a major role. For example, the person that one individual sees is an enemy of this person. That is the reason for his unpleasant feeling. For the other individual, the sight is the best friend of him. That is the reason for his pleasant feeling. Did you see how this sight plays a major role of producing different feelings in different individuals? Yeah, so it basically happens at the stage of feeling, perception, and follows volitions, right? So for example, when contact happens, it's the same three things: eye, visual object, and the consciousness. But when it goes to the feeling stage, pleasant feeling arises in one person, unpleasant feeling arises in another person, and there is somebody passing by. Okay, the other person is not an enemy or best friend of this person. Neutral feeling arises for him, for the third individual. But because of the first individual, and he saw his enemy, right? And he has different perceptions now. And he recalls past memories. And different set of volitions will arise. That is called Rupa Sanchetana. Thoughts or volitions regarding the visual object. Different stream of thoughts. I should take revenge of him. I should do something. I should yell at him. I should ask about him. This is how he was unfair to me. Different stream of volitions arise. For the other person, because he saw his best friend, a different stream of thoughts arises, right? He's so happy, he's excited, and he feels like there is somebody to help him. It's a different stream of thoughts. How about the third individual? A neutral feeling arose in him. He doesn't care. He doesn't care how that person is. He is not his enemy, nor his best friend. So he doesn't care. He just goes. See how feelings affect the volitions? The person who is thinking about the hateful thoughts of that person, he is making bad karma from the moment the contact arose. From the moment the contact arose, a bad karma is arranged in his life. He doesn't need to say anything. He doesn't need to go and yell at him. He doesn't not need to take a weapon and shoot at him. No, he doesn't need to do all those things. Just at the stage of the arising of the contact, the bad karma, formation of the bad karma is happening. Because what is the cause for sankhara? Sankhara here means chetana. What is the cause of sankhara?
Contact, Bhante.
Contact is the cause of sankhara. Sankhara means here karma. Chetana aham bhikkhave kammang vadami. Oh monks, thought, I say, is the karma. Or volition, I say, is the karma. That is the starting point of the karma. Chetayitva kammang karoti kayena vachaya manasaya. Somebody having thought does actions by body, speech, and mind. Chetayitva kammang karoti kayena vachaya manasaya. Having thought, a person does actions, kammang karoti, makes karma by body, speech, and mind. All starts with contact. Right? So we need to go backward, like when we see something, rather than going forward with pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, neutral feelings, angry thoughts, greedy thoughts, lustful thoughts, rather than going forward with feeling, we should need to go back. How did this feeling arise? What is behind this? What is behind the feeling? Then we understand is the contact is behind the feeling. What is the meaning of contact? Is the three things coming together is contact. And what are those three things? Is the impermanent I, impermanent object, impermanent consciousness. Like that, we need to do something different if we like to escape from this body that is attacked by corona. If we like to get rid of ears that are attacked by insults, criticisms, we have to do this reflection. If we don't do this reflection, and if we follow the same habitual path, getting angry, attachment, greediness, craving, clinging, hatred, if we follow the same path, then it is guaranteed that we will have bodies again and again, and that will be destroyed by virus, such as COVID-19. We will have bodies again and again that will be destroyed by cancer, by all the diseases. Because we are going to be reborn again and again if we continue with these defilements in the mind. You see, Buddha teaches the reason for rebirth is the defilements in the mind. And why do these defilements arise? Because we don't understand what is happening here. That is why Buddha teaches, please understand what is happening in the seeing process, hearing process, smelling process, tasting process, touching process, and thinking process, and reduce the level of defilements in your mind and increase the level of wisdom in your life, and you will attain the stages of enlightenment. And that way, gradually you will put an end to this endless cycle of rebirth. Isn't that amazing? That is the amazing science in the world. It's not like the science that failed in this case of COVID-19. This is the science that never fails. This is the science that gives permanent solutions for problems. Right? Any comments, any questions?
Bhante, can I ask just a short question about consciousness? The consciousness is the act of cognizing, right, Bhante?
Yeah, cognition, yeah.
Cognition. So is it only one definition, like in the 5 groups of clinging and in the Paticca Samuppada, both
Yeah,
consciousness?
it's the same definition, same definition. Yeah. Yes. If you go to Paticca Samuppada Vibhanga Sutta, that is in the Samyutta Nikaya second part, Nidana Samyutta, you see the suttas about dependent origination, and Buddha would explain about the consciousness there as the 6 classes of consciousness in the same way. And if you go to the Khanda Samyutta to read about the discourses on the 5 groups of clinging, Pancha Upadana Khanda, you will see the same explanation as 6 classes of consciousness.
Yes, Bhante. Thank you.
So, are you ready to go to the next part of the sutta?
Yes, Bhante.
Buddha teaches there are the 18 mental preoccupations. Attarasa manopavichara. Attarasa manopavichara. 18 mental preoccupations. And Buddha teaches this is the Dhamma I have taught. That is irrefutable, uncorrupted, beyond reproach, and is not scorned by sensible ascetics and Brahmins. No, the wise people will realize this. What is that? What are these 18 mental preoccupations? Buddha teaches here. Seeing a sight with the eye. One is preoccupied with the sight. That is the basis for happiness or sadness or equanimity. So that means after seeing something, it does not end there. We take that object with us. Maybe we keep it for a week, for a month, for a year, for years and years, and for lives and lives maybe. Because now, even though that visual object changed, maybe that person already dead, but still mind is preoccupied with that sight. Because there was a feeling connected with that sight. It's not just a bare sight, bare object. There was a feeling connected with that sight. For one individual, it was the happiness, happy feeling connected with that. For another individual, it was the sadness. For another individual, it was equanimity. So that is the meaning of preoccupation. In the same way, hearing a sound with the ear, one is preoccupied with the sound. That is the basis for happiness, sadness, or equanimity. That is why whenever you need that happy feeling again, you just need to pay attention to that incident. And again, that happy feeling will come. And the craving will follow. And if you like to experience that sadness again, after 5 years, 10 years, you just need to pay attention to that incident. The same sad feeling will come. This is why, this is the reason for depression. This preoccupying thing in somebody's mind. Smelling an odor with the nose, one is preoccupied with the smell. That is the basis for happiness or sadness or equanimity. You can feel that even now, something new that smelled really nice. You think about that incident and the same feeling will arise. Right? So stories do not end there. We carry them wherever we go. and we try to live in them. The danger is that the tree of craving is growing. Tree of craving is growing. Even though we change the country, we change the place we live, doesn't matter. This thing that which preoccupied our mind will be always with us if we don't use our vipassana knowledge to understand the cause and effect mechanism there and to weaken our defilements connected with that feeling. Because of this thing happening. Tasting a flavor with tongue, one is preoccupied with the taste. That is the basis for happiness or sadness or equanimity. You can think about any food you ate years ago. You can have that same feeling right now. Feeling a touch with the body, one is preoccupied with a touch that is basis for happiness or sadness or equanimity. Becoming conscious of a thought with the mind, one is preoccupied with the thought that is the basis for happiness or sadness or equanimity. Same thing. It's like we saw something. When we think something, there is a feeling connected with that thought. And whenever we need, we can think of the same thing and the same feeling will arise. These are the 18 mental preoccupations. So how these 18 things come? Because at each sense base, 3 feelings arise. The mind wanders around 3 feelings: happiness, sadness, or equanimity. So you multiply 6 by 3, right? And comes the 18 mental preoccupations. Artha rasa manopavichara. Isn't that very deep?
Yes, Bante.
Yes, Bante. Bante, can I ask you a question here, please? Bante, what is the difference between the last one, the mind, having a thought in the mind, and then we explore the thought? Because in the, let's say for the seeing process, for the first one, the form, having seen a form, our mind also explore. What is the difference between that mind exploring with the thought one? Because for me, they sound almost the same, Bante. With the thought, that means the thought of what we have seen too, right, Bante? Or maybe I'm just confused by myself. I think Bante is offline.
Cut off.
Yes, I think their internet is not stable there.
Linda, I was thinking about the same thing, and
Right.
I thought about like if you take an alcoholic, okay,
Right.
if they come across alcohol, so you know, if they see alcohol or they taste alcohol, then that raises a feeling for them, right?
Right.
And a craving for them. But if, let's say, they don't see alcohol and they don't come across to taste alcohol, but if they're thinking of alcohol, that will also raise that same feeling, potentially, right? That a feeling that then gives rise to craving.
Right. So that one becomes the last one, the having a thought, having cognized a thought in the mind. It becomes
The intention.
The last
That
one.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, becomes the object. The thought becomes the object.
Right. But during
So
that thinking process, isn't it? It has connection with the tasting of self, right? In that thinking process, doesn't it have connection with tasting? And then after,
Yeah, you might think about the taste of it, but it's still a
and
thought because you're not actually tasting it.
so it's more like something that happened in the past regarding any of the other 5 faculties.
Potentially, yeah.
Because it's happened in
Right.
the past, we're just thinking about what happened regarding that faculty.
Yeah. But you could still have thoughts that don't relate to any of those past experiences with the other senses. Like, let's say you have never tasted mushrooms before, but somebody, you know, you can think about the taste of mushrooms, right?
Right.
That's true.
Mm.
But in regard to like something that happened in the, like for another faculty, it's like for example, like we heard a song in the past and we're thinking about it now. That's exclusively for the mind and not for the sound, not for like the ear.
Right.
Okay.
I think Bante has joined.
Sorry,
Bante,
Bante.
Yeah, good,
Kamu
good.
benda
I
ya,
think, yeah, I think you already got answers. So
Kind
let's
of
go, to
answer.
let's go to the next one. That's easy for me, and I'm very grateful. So I think this is the last part of the sutta. Buddha teaches there are these 4 noble truths. That's a very kind of familiar Dhamma topic, right? The 4 noble truths. Then Buddha teaches these 4 noble truths. This is the Dhamma I have taught. And it is irrefutable, uncorrupted, beyond reproach, and is not scorned by sensible ascetics and Brahmins. In this sutta, Buddha explains 4 noble truths in a very different way, in a unique way, amazing way. And this is the only sutta where you see this explanation about 4 noble truths like this. So normally we learn about 4 noble truths as Buddha explains, noble truth of suffering. What is the second one?
The cause of suffering.
Origin.
Suffering.
Origin or cause of suffering.
Then the cessation of suffering.
Cessation of suffering.
And then the Noble
Path.
Eight Path.
Eightfold
Yeah.
Path.
The path leading to the cessation of suffering, right?
Yeah.
So those 4 noble truths are explained here in a very unique way. So if you need to remember this Sutta, Titthayatana Sutta from the Numerical Discourses, Book of the Trees. This is a powerful explanation here again. Buddha explains like this. Okay, can somebody read?
I can read one. Supported by the 6 elements, an embryo is conceived. When it is conceived, there are name and form. Name and form are conditions for the 6 sense fields. The 6 sense fields are conditions for contact. Contact is a condition for feeling. It's for one who feels that I declare, this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is a practice that leads to the cessation of suffering.
Good, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, this is a like amazing wisdom of the Buddha. Now, for a moment, let's go here. Remember we discussed that the feeling, remember we were talking about that how our entire world is governed by 3 types of feelings? It is explained here. It is explained here. It is for one who feels that I declare this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. Can you see how this feeling plays a major role in these Four Noble Truths?
Yes, Bhante.
That is repeated here again, right? So now Buddha teaches like even though feeling plays a major role in this being who is wandering in this samsara from life to life, that is not the place we should start the wise consideration or investigating the cause and effect mechanism. That is not the place we should start. According to this sutta, Buddha teaches we should start our wise consideration or yoniso manasikara here, supported by 6 elements. Now, when Buddha teaches supported by 6 elements, we already know about that because why? Buddha already taught it in the beginning part of this sutta. Supported by the 6 elements. What are those 6 elements?
Earth element,
Air,
Earth,
air,
water,
fire,
fire,
water,
air,
air,
yeah,
space, and
space,
consciousness.
and
consciousness.
consciousness. So when we talk about the body, we only talk about earth, water, fire, and air, right? But here there are more. Because here we are talking about the birth of a being. So there is this space element. There is this space inside the mother's womb. And the embryo is growing in using that space. And also, it is not only about physical elements. You can talk about physical elements with regard to a dead body. But here we are talking about the newly born baby. When I say newly born, from the moment the consciousness gets established in mother's womb with the support of the other 5 elements in the Dhamma, we call it birth. We don't need to wait until the being is born, until the mother gives birth to the child. We don't need to wait to call it birth. It's already happened. As soon as the consciousness gets established in mother's womb with the support of the other 5 elements, it's called birth. That is why Buddha teaches if somebody destroys even an embryo, it counts as killing a human being. That is why when Buddha gives higher ordination for the monks, and not only Buddha, even at present, monks can be ordained, can be received higher ordination at the age of 20, and if they are short of few months on the day of the ordination ceremony, they can count the months they were in the mother's womb and complete their 20 years. Because it is realistic that the being has been born and lived there for 9 or 10 months or whatever months. So it's very practical, right? So in the ordinary world, we take birthday parties, right? For which date?
The date that we were born, Bhante.
No.
The date we
You
came
were
out of the
born
womb.
before that. Maybe 9 months ago, 10 months ago.
Date of conception. Conception.
Right? So basically, You don't know when you were
Born.
born.
Really boring.
So why do you take birthday parties? It's a wrong date you are celebrating.
That's the worldly date, Bhante.
You are celebrating a wrong day. That's not the day you were born. You can never know when you were born. That's why Bantes don't take any birthday parties.
It's the day we moved out of the mother's room and into the hospital.
Yeah, then you have to call that name, not the birthday, okay? Don't call it birthday anymore. Don't call it birthday parties. You have to find a different name.
And
Did
actually,
Day of
when
conception.
Day of conception, you can never know.
yeah,
Okay?
Ask your parents.
No, even they don't know.
They did it. They know. They
No,
should.
they don't know. They don't
no,
know. You
they
can
don't know.
consciousness coming and conceive in mother's womb. It's completely an invisible thing. You need to understand this. So Buddha teaches supported by 6 elements. So all the 6 elements have to be there. That is why some parents don't have children, okay? And they go to doctors. And the doctors examine parents and they say everything is fine. But the thing they cannot find is the 6th element, okay? Because birth has to be supported by 6 elements, okay? So what is the 6th one? The consciousness
Consciousness.
element. The doctors don't have any idea about the consciousness element. And the parents don't have any idea. In that case, the mother should not misunderstand father. Father should not misunderstand mother. Because it's completely an invisible thing. There should be a consciousness of a being in connection with that birth. And in that part, there is no control over it. Mother has no control over it. Father has no control over it. That consciousness entirely depends on the karma background of that being. That is why when the consciousness gets established in the mother's womb, sometimes it is the consciousness of a being, of a disabled being, disabled baby. Does any parent like to have babies like that with weaknesses?
No, Bhante.
No, but it happens. It happens how many times? For how many families it happens? Will any parent pray for the God to create a being with difficulty, the weaknesses? All the parents, especially who pray, will pray to have a beautiful, nice, healthy baby, right? But do they
Bhante.
get all the time?
No.
No.
No. Buddha realized why. Buddha realized it is the karma of that being who is conceived in mother's womb. And the consciousness based on the karma. Because Buddha teaches Viññānaṁ bījaṁ. Seed is the consciousness. Kammang kettang. Field is the karma of that being, previous past life karma. Tanha sineho, craving is the water. That is how the plant grows. We have the seed, consciousness, field, karma, water, craving. Now the new tree starts growing. That is the simile for the new life. So when the consciousness gets established in the mother's womb, If that is related with bad karma, then the baby will be born with difficulties, weaknesses, maybe lots of diseases, a sick baby. You see how it happens? Parents don't have any control over that. And the modern science don't have kind of complete knowledge about it. Buddha had the complete knowledge, perfect knowledge about what is happening. And he explains here, no one can challenge this. Any science cannot challenge this. Any technology cannot challenge this. And they just like, they are curious. Why? What is happening? Why don't we have children? Oh, why this happened to us? Why our child has these problems? They just have to ask so many questions. But in Buddha's life, there are no questions, always answers. Supported by 6 elements, an embryo is conceived. We have to understand very clearly that a new life means combination of these 6 elements. Not 4, not 5, not 7, it's 6. As soon as these 6 elements come together, and what are those 6 elements? Again, earth, water,
Air,
air,
Fire,
fire,
water,
space,
space,
consciousness.
consciousness. As soon as these 6 elements come together in the mother's womb, it's a new life. It's already arranged, pre-arranged. It's called Puranang Bhikkave Kamma. That life is a result of previous karma. Whether the mother and the father likes or not, according to the karma, the baby will be born. How the baby's eyes should be is already determined by that baby's past life karma. How that baby's face should be already determined. How that baby's ears already determined. What color the hair already determined. Girl or a boy already determined. You see this? It's not the parent deciding it. When it is conceived, there are name and form. Name and form means nama rupa, okay? Nama rupa means, okay, after these 6 elements come together in the mother's womb, please understand, out of those 6 things, 5 things are material things. That means biological, right? The physical things. And the last one is mental. That is why no one can create a new being without the support of a consciousness. Without the support of a consciousness, no one can create a new being. If it was possible, the scientists would have already created such a being. It's impossible. There should be this consciousness as a mental factor. And when the conception happens, there are name and form. So these 2 things start growing inside the mother's womb, okay? Form means the physical element of the body of the baby, okay? earth element, water element, fire element, air element, those 4 things start growing with the help of the food that the mother is taking, okay? The name, nama. Nama means one word for 5 things. What are those 5 things? Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Phassa, Manasikara. Buddha uses one name for these 5 things. Name or nama means feeling, perception, thoughts or volition, contact, and attention. Those 5 things are called nama. So embryo means the being, okay? Then now there is the being with the support of the mother's food. What is growing is this nama rupa. Physical body of the baby is growing and also the nama is growing. That is why baby feels inside the body. Here comes the next. That's why the mother feels the movements of the baby. And we say, doctors say that mother during pregnancy, mother has to have a peaceful mind, happy mind, don't get angry, don't fight with others, you need to maintain your peace in the mind because it affects your child, don't they say? They say, right? It's because the name and form are growing inside mother's womb, and over time this name and form are conditions for the 6 sense fields. That means little by little eye is forming of the baby. Eyes are forming, ears are forming, nose is forming, tongue is forming, body is forming, and consciousness is always there. The mind is always there. So ear, so what are the 6 sense fields? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And these 6 sense bases are conditioned by the name and form or nama rupa. Now a baby, all the features are forming inside mother's womb, okay? The 6 sense fields are conditioned for contact. Now the baby inside mother's womb starts the feeling process while the baby is inside the mother's womb, not after mother gives the birth. Because 6 sense bases condition the contact inside the mother's womb. The baby feels everything. That's why mother has to be very careful. The baby feels the heat, the cold, these different elements the baby feels. The hatred of the mother, the peace of the mind of the mother, baby feels these things because the contact is happening. Phassa, contact is a condition for feeling. And there is, the baby feels, feelings arise. Even though they are in a very subtle stage, still they are called feelings, okay? And Buddha teaches, it is for one who feels that I declare this is suffering. That means the noble truth of suffering is applied to that baby, even that baby. While he is in the womb, he even hasn't seen the world yet, outside world, he hasn't seen. But his life is also included in the noble truth of suffering. Why? That baby is subject to aging, subject to sickness, subject to death, right? What is the first noble truth? Jatipi dukkha, birth is suffering. Jarapi dukkha, aging is suffering.
Vyadhi dukkha.
Vyadhipi dukkha, sickness is suffering. Next.
Death.
Maranampi dukkha, death is
Maranam.
suffering.
Yes.
Aren't those things applicable to this baby inside the mother's womb?
Yes.
That is
Mhm.
why Buddha teaches, it is for one who feels that I declare this is suffering. That baby's life is also included in the noble truth of suffering. What happens if the karma is over to be in the mother's womb? The baby will die, or there will be a miscarriage. And that is the noble truth of suffering in that baby's life. And how many children die like that in the world? Thousands and thousands of babies, right? Even in this moment that we are talking about, this, the babies are dying. Mothers have abortions. Fathers force mothers to have abortions. Even in this moment we are talking. How many babies die? And they take rebirth in somewhere else. This is a very complex world, very risky journey. Maybe that being comes to a mother's womb to see the human world after thousands and thousands of years, after eons and eons. That baby is about to see the human world. Maybe for years and years, thousands of years, hundreds and thousands of years, that baby, that being was an animal. And he suffered a lot. The strong beings, other animals, devoured that being for many, many lives. And after being born as an animal repeatedly, this baby is just took rebirth in a mother's womb, and he is waiting to come to the human world and live like a human baby, right? And the mother has an abortion. And the baby's next karma is to be reborn in a mother of an animal mother. That means the baby went back to the animal world. Nobody knows when is the escape from the animal world. Do you understand the real nature of samsara? That is why we should be really grateful to our mother and father, because our mother didn't do that to us, because our father didn't ask our mother to have an abortion, and our mother didn't want to have an abortion. There are no words to explain how much we should be grateful to our mother and father, because we don't know after how many years we came to this human world. We don't know. So that is why we can, like, some people, they recall some bad things parents did to them, some failures, parents, wrong decisions the parents made. Some children tend to think about those things, but you can forget all of those and just think one thing: they gave me the life. That's all you need to think. If you think that they gave me the life, you cannot repay for that. So you can forget all the other sad things, their mistakes and all those things, and you can still take care of them, look after them, be thankful to them, grateful to them. If we understand how rare it is to be born as a human baby, we will do that. We will think about it. Okay. So that's a different story about, we just learned it from this also. Okay, so that is the end of the class today.
Bante,
Uh-huh.
I know maybe other Kalyana Mitta has question, but can I ask this short question, Bante?
No,
When Bante,
before asking questions, say sadhu to the knowledge of the Buddha.
sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Just appreciate the enlightenment of the Buddha, because Buddha realized all these things. Otherwise, we wouldn't know, right?
Yes.
We don't know. Is it really rare to be born as a human being? We don't know. We don't know what is happening in the mother's womb, and we just celebrate our birthdays and we say birthday parties, birthday parties. We don't know really what happened and how rare it is to be born. All right. So it's because of the Buddha we know all these things.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I also want to say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu for Bante who shared this beautiful Dhamma today. Bante, question for Bante is,
Now I am now I am not answering to Linda's question, because you already asked many questions. Any other
but it's
Kalyanamittas?
important, Bante. It's important. Other friends can benefit too,
Any other
Bante.
Kalyanamittas have questions?
Bante, I have a question. Can I ask? This is my second one. It's me.
Oh, Harry, Harry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Bante, you mentioned a while ago the simile of the new life, right? So you said
Yes.
that the seed is just like consciousness, the field is the karma, water is the craving. So talking about the water, so just like you know, a seed. Okay, so the degree of water, how much water you put into the seed in the soil, is very important, right? So it says in here, so if you put too much water, and that means craving. What if there's not much of water? So will there still be have a life?
Yes.
No, it doesn't,
Yes,
right?
it has to be zero craving to come to the end of the life.
So the degree of okay, so should I rephrase the question to be, should the degree of mental preoccupations determine a bad karma, or it determines the karma? Because for example, let's say the food, okay, so if I think that this is very delicious, so I react to it, it's not a karma. But then if I put too much of the pleasantness and get attached to it, then that's craving, and that would actually lead to a bad karma. Okay, eventually. So the degree, the quantity of the preoccupation matters a lot, right?
Yes, there is some truth, and there is some area which we need to understand there. There is no way that we are going to have zero craving at the stage of contact happening. As soon as the tongue cognizes the taste, that is the moment the craving happens. We understand it with the dependent origination, cause and effect theory. What is the theory? Imasming sati idang hoti. That is the application. Imasa upada idang upajjati. That is the theory that we need to take to understand every link of the dependent origination. There are 12 links of the dependent origination, and this is the theory we need to take to investigate. Imasming sati idang hoti. When there is this, that exists.
Okay.
Imasa upada idang upajjati. With the arising of this, that arises.
Okay.
This is called Arya Nyaya. Aryo Nyayo. So when we apply links of the dependent origination, Paticca Samuppada, to this theory, we go here. Okay. When this exists, that exists. When contact exists, what is next?
Feelings.
Feeling exists.
Yeah.
Okay, and we go to the next link. When this exists, that exists. When feeling exists,
Perception.
Craving,
The
craving,
pleasantness.
craving exists.
Craving. Yeah.
Craving
okay.
exists. Okay, so as soon as contact happens, feeling happens, craving happens, clinging happens, karma happens.
So it doesn't consider the degree or the gravity or the quantity. So once there's contact,
This is how it changes. When the contact happens,
Mhm.
if somebody uses vipassana knowledge, while eating, he understands, he is mindful. Tongue is impermanent, taste is impermanent, consciousness is impermanent, and these pleasant feelings arise. These are impermanent. I should not cling to these things. There is no mind, no I am, no myself here. That is the vipassana knowledge which changes the whole process.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Instead of supporting for the existence of this being in this samsaric journey, that vipassana knowledge weakens the arising of defilements, and that vipassana knowledge leads to the stages of enlightenment. It's a whole new route that person takes. It's the same with other sense bases as well. In the seeing process, hearing process, smelling process, if the practitioner is mindful and uses the vipassana knowledge, that's how I'll show you that in a sutta. So you'll be very happy to see that in the Buddha's direct words. If you are lucky, I will find it. If you are not lucky, I won't find it. Okay. So let's see. Let's see. We go here. We go to Sutta. We go to middle length, Majjhima Nikaya, Upari Pannasaka, Salayatana Magga. Let's check this one, Mahasalayatanika Sutta. Okay, here.
Okay.
Okay. When you do truly know and see the I, sights, eye consciousness, eye contact, and what is felt as pleasant, painful, neutral, that arises conditioned by eye contact. Okay. So that means when you do truly know and see means, Buddha uses that to say that you understand the true nature of these things, that they are impermanent, subject to change, not self, not me, not I am, not myself. I like that. You do that investigation, okay? If you do that, you are not aroused by desire for these things. You understand that?
Okay.
You are not
Yeah.
aroused by desire for these things. Now your path is different, okay? It's not the habitual path. Oh, I need this more, I need this more, and I really like this, and I am attached to this. That's the habitual path, right?
Yeah.
And you fight for that. You harm somebody to satisfy your desires. That is the habitual path. But now you use vipassana knowledge, so you are not aroused by desire for these things, and now it's a different path. Result: someone who lives unaroused desire like this, unfettered, unconfused, concentrating on the drawbacks, adinavanupassī viharati. And instead, now in our the ordinary life, we are living not concentrating on the drawbacks of the desires. We are living concentrating on the gratification. Do you understand that? Yeah. So we live concentrating on gratification, like we live with desires, craving, clinging. That's the meaning. Assadānupassī viharati. If we don't understand the true nature, you see here, when you don't truly know and see the ear, nose, tongue, and feelings, you are aroused by desire for these things, and you live concentrating on gratification. Assadānupassī viharati. And the result is accumulates the 5 grasping aggregates for themselves in the future. This is how our future rebirth is arranged while we are eating something. Future life means 5 grasping aggregates, okay? Another life means 5 grasping aggregates. What are those? Form, rupa, feeling, vedana, perception, shanya, thoughts, sankhara, consciousness, vijnana. So when there are these 5 things in some place, that is called the life. So accumulates the groups of the 5 grasping aggregates for themselves in the future. And their craving, which leads to the future rebirth, mixed up with relishing and greed, looking for enjoyment in various different realms, grows. That is how rebirth is arranged while we are living here. But our Kalyanamitta asked about how to stop this. And how you stop is someone who lives unaroused desires like this, unfettered, unconfused, concentrating on the drawbacks. That is different. Adinavanupassī means vipassana knowledge. He lives using vipassana knowledge. He lives using vipassana knowledge while eating, while seeing, while hearing, He uses this vipassana knowledge. Now what happens? Previously, it accumulates the 5 grasping aggregates, right? But now what happens? Disperses the 5 groups, 5 grasping aggregates. Did you see the difference?
Yes.
This is accumulating. Panchupadana khanda. It's accumulating. But here, Panchupadana khanda apachayam gacchanti, disperses the 5 grasping of aggregates for themselves in the future. That's a very good thing, because the times we had 5 groups of clinging is endless, countless, life after life, life after life. we had these 5 things: form, feeling, perception, thoughts, consciousness. And we suffered immensely. We experienced unexplainable pain and suffering and misery. But now what happens is dispersing the 5 grasping aggregates for themselves in the future. And their craving is given up. See here, given up. Their physical and mental stress, torment and fever are giving up. And they experience physical and mental pleasure. We can learn this sutta in a different class. It's a beautiful sutta. Right?
Thank you, Bante. Thank you. Sadhu.
It's a deep Dhamma, right? Maybe you
Very
don't want to come to the deep Dhamma class again because it is too deep.
Yeah, it says there it's a right view.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely right view. Vipassana knowledge is right view. And you understand how clear the path is? What we are doing now, what we are supposed to do, the result. Isn't everything clear?
yes, Bante.
Bante.
Yes, Bante.
Bante, may I ask question, Bante?
Sorry, Ani.
Yes, so, well, thank you very much for the explanation. It's really deep and very amazing. So when contact leads to feeling, and then there are 2 ways that feeling will react. I mean, feeling will lead to either craving or aversion. And just now, the best way how we should react is to not to arouse towards what we feel, what we like, either it is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling. So if it is related to, let's say, sensual pleasure, maybe it is easier to control it, to not crave on, let's say, on the food. But let's say if there is ear contact and we heard that something that is not nice, not right, and at the very beginning we will feel unpleasant and we have aversion towards that. But then we realize that, okay, this is just, this is just an ear contact and this feeling arises from that. Now, if it is something that is not right, and if we react to that, we want to make clear that that is not right. So let's say A says something about B, and that is not the right thing that A talk about B. So let's say I heard that, and then I will come to A and say, look, this is not what you're talking about. B is not right. And I try to explain to him, this is not right. But then A still not understand about it, and still say the same thing, or say this, just for example, say something bad about B. So at that point, should we stop? Should I stop, like talking to A, trying to clarify that what he was saying was wrong?
So, okay, it depends. It depends. There is no black and white answer for that. In some cases, yes. With regard to some individuals, we decide to give it up, right? We no longer want to advise that person or correct that person or like that. In some cases, okay? But in some cases, we never give up. Example, in one of the past lives of the Buddha, his friend was Ghatikara. And in that previous life of the Buddha, Bodhisattva, his name was Jyotipala. This Ghatikara, his friend, was from a low caste family in India. Jyotipala, the Bodhisattva, he didn't know he was the Bodhisattva. And he was from a high caste family. You know, the unbelievable thing happened. The Gatikara, the friend of the Bodhisattva, was very loyal disciple of the Buddha Kassapa. And he was a non-returner. He attained the third stage of enlightenment. And he still lived at home, taking care of his blind parents. That's why he couldn't become a monk. He had to take care of his parents. And his friend, Bodhisattva, Jyotipala, he hated seeing the Kassapa Buddha. He hated. He never went there to see the Buddha. His best friend is a non-returner. Every time when his friend asked, "Oh dear Jyotipala, my best friend, shall we go to see the Kassapa Buddha? He lives very close by." And the Jyotipala would say, "No, I hate monks. These bald-headed monks, I hate to see them. This is the Bodhisattva. And in future life, he will be another Buddha." But now he rejects seeing the Buddha. And the Gatikara friend, he never gave up. He repeatedly pressed him, kept pressing him. Let's go to see the Buddha. Let's go to see the Buddha. And he, amazing being, very rare being, and like that. Though finally, Gatikara friend was able to convince his friend Jyotipala, and he took his friend to the Buddha. For the first time in his life, he listened to the Buddha's Dhamma. As soon as he listened to the Buddha's words, he was amazed. And they worshipped the Buddha. And as soon as they left the monastery, Jyotipala, Bodhisattva, asked his friend, "My friend, the Buddha's words are so true. These worldly pleasures are temporary. They are impermanent. So you have been associating with the Buddha for a long time now. Why don't you become a monk?" And he said, "You already know, because I have to take care of my parents. They are blind." And Jyotipala said, "Okay, I want to become a monk." And he went back to the Kassapa Buddha. He became a monk. That is one of our Buddha's past lives. So in that case, Suryani, did you see the Gatikara, the friend Gatikara never gave up? he kept pressing. So it depends on the individuals, and it depends. But in some cases, we cannot keep pressing. Sometimes we have to be equanimous. We have to, sometimes we have to give up. You have to decide. Okay.
Thank you, Bante.
You're welcome. Okay, so today we forgot to learn about stories from Petavattu, Vimanvattu. Okay.
Okay, Bante.
But we discussed very deep things, right? So that is the last part of the sutta. I think we will finish the sutta next time. And Linda has to keep your questions for the next time. Okay. We have run out of time. Okay. Everybody say sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu,
Sadhu.
sadhu, sadhu.
So all of us, all these Kalyanamitas, collected powerful good karma this evening, going for refuge the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, observing precepts, practicing meditation, reading the Dhamma and discussing the Dhamma, and also helping each other in many ways. So we share this good karma first of all with our teacher Loku Swamin Wahanse. Sadhu, sadhu. We share this good karma with all the deities. Sadhu. We share this good karma with our parents, teachers, family members, sons, daughters, and with all beings. May all beings rejoice in this merit. May they be healthy. May they enjoy long life. May their lives be protected, rare human lives. And may all of us be able to understand the true nature of this life and attain true happiness. Sadhu. Abhivadana Silis Nichang Vada Pachayino Chattaro Dhamma Vardanti Ayvano Sukhambalang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sangha Sampatti Mevacha Atho Nibbana Sampatti Minate Samvijjatu. Sukhiyotu. Say after me. Okasavandami Bante.
Okasavandami Bante.
Maya Katang Punyang.
Maya Katang Punyang.
Amina Numoditabang.
Amina Anumoditabang.
Amina Katam Punyang.
Amina Katang Punyang.
Mayhanda Tabang.
Mayanda Tabang.
Sadhu Anumodami.
Sadhu Anumodami.
Okasudwaratena.
Okasudwaratena.
Katang Sabang Achyang.
Katang Sabang Achyang.
Kamatami Bante.
Kamatami Bante.
Okaskamami Bante.
Okaskamami Bante.
Dutiyampi Okaskamami Bante.
Dutiyampi Okaskamami Bante.
Atiyampi Okaskamami Bante.
Atiyampi Okaskamami Bante.
Sukhiyotu, Dukkha Muchanti. Oh, if you have friends who speak Hindi and who understand Hindi, my teacher has recently done a Dhamma talk in Hindi language. Okay, so if you have friends, please share with your friends. Let me share the link here so you can share it with your friends. So that is the link, okay? Hold on. You can see?
Yes, Bante.
Yeah. So, and also the YouTube channel is Buddha Rashmi. You can listen to my teacher's Desana in Hindi. He normally does Desanas in Sinhala and this time in Hindi, okay?
Thank
Geeta,
you for,
did you have a chance to watch it?
I wanted to say thank you, Bante. Thank you for the teaching for all of us today. Thank you. Yes, I looked at it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My sister-in-law speaks Hindi, so I sent a copy to her.
Good. You already did. Okay, good.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank
you.
you,
Namo
Bante.
Buddhaya, Bante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo
Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya, Bante.
Namo
Thank
Buddhaya.
you, Bante.
Namo Buddhaya Bante. Thank
Yeah,
you.
welcome.
Be safe, Bante. Take care.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Budaya, Bante.
Budaya Bante.
Namo Buddhaya.